I'm Cierra Bettens. This is APTN News InFocus. Today on the show, Nunavut Premier John Main. Main was elected in the fall of 2025, but he's no stranger to politics in Nunavut. He served as an MLA and cabinet minister and also has a wealth of experience in economic development. So he knows his way around and about the issues facing the territory. Here he is speaking at the Arctic Symposium in January of this year in Ottawa.
I think it's quite striking that as Northern Premiers, we're sitting here. We're here in Ottawa, and what are we doing? We're here advocating for the basics. We're asking for the basics. That's where we are at. As Nunavut, I can't speak too much for my colleague here, but we have a lot in common. We're here advocating for drinking water. We're here advocating for basic infrastructure that's taken for granted in southern Canada, like ports, like roads, small craft harbors, electricity. We can't take these things for granted, and we don't in Nunavut, because we are severely under-equipped in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of human security at the community level. We are underdeveloped, but I share my colleagues' enthusiasm in terms of sensing that the mood has shifted with our federal partners, and it's an exciting time. But we do need to make sure that in terms of human security in Nunavut, that there's a balanced approach that's taken.
So Main went on to address the idea that the Arctic is, quote, having a moment. But it's a moment, he said, must be backed by decades of sustained engagement and investment. So to explain more about what he meant by that, Premier Main joins me now. Premier Main, thanks so much for making the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me and making the time.
So as we heard in the introduction, you acknowledged that the Arctic is having a moment, but that moment needs to last for years to come. Can you tell us a bit more about what you meant by that?
Yeah, I think if we look at the focus lately around Arctic security and sovereignty and looking at the community infrastructure that's needed right across our territory, I think what I was trying to get across was that a moment, the Arctic having a moment, just will not be sufficient. It won't be enough because we have such a huge gap when it comes to our infrastructure, a huge gap when it comes to meeting the basic needs of our residents, that what is needed is sustained attention, sustained investment from our federal partners. We're willing as a territorial government to work as hard as we can, but we do need partnership from our federal partners.
And so you've now been in office for about 5 months, and I'm wondering, what priorities would you say you've dedicated the most time to looking at addressing?
Yeah, so in terms of our government, the past months have, a lot of it has been around planning because we're a consensus model here in the territory. We were elected and we come into government without a mandate. And so between my cabinet colleagues as well as other members of the assembly, also working with Inuit organizations, we've developed our mandate over the past months. And so looking forward, that mandate lays out areas we want to prioritize. So looking forward, it's around implementation of the mandate. We're looking to focus on the economy, looking to focus on supporting families and communities, also really looking to strengthen partnerships with folks like Inuit organizations, with the private sector, with the federal government. So we've got a lot of work to do. And so I think the last few months, a lot of it has been around planning and setting up the coming years in terms of what we'll be working on.
in your 2026 mandate, you open with this idea that we live in perilous and promising times. And I'm wondering, what does that mean in the context of Nunavut?
Yeah, I think if you look at Arctic security and sovereignty, it's very concerning and quite stressful for folks up here, for many of us anyways. If you look at issues around Greenland, issues around geopolitical forces at play in the Arctic, it's quite concerning for multiple reasons around Canada's sovereignty in the Arctic. But at the same time, I think with all that additional attention comes opportunity. We have an opportunity to bring to light just the very real issues around infrastructure, issues around delivery of essential programs like healthcare here in Nunavut. And so it's a time of, heightened concern, but also heightened opportunity. And I think that's what I was trying to get at with that message.
Mm-hmm. One of the priorities that you highlight in the mandate, you talk about housing shortages as a key issue. What can you tell us about the housing needs in Nunavut?
Well, it's a massive area of shortage, and very important area that does need sustained investment. So we're looking to continue, more or less continue the previous government's initiatives around housing and looking for ways to increase our housing stock across the territory. It's one of those key issues that's linked to so many things. You look at overcrowded housing or substandard housing, or shortage of housing, it has negative impacts on your education, your health, your mental health, everything, your ability to hold down a job. So it's one of those files where we know if we can make progress, if we can get more houses built, get more Inuit and Nunavut residents working within the housing industry, we can help them or help move things forward on so many different linked issues. So we're going to continue working hard at it. And we're happy to have partners in terms of the federal government with Build Canada Homes and with Inuit organizations in the territory on housing. So it's an area that's going to need our continued attention for sure.
And on that note, do you get the sense from the federal government that more housing is coming?
We get the sense that they hear us in terms of our needs. We have an agreement in principle with Build Canada Homes to fund additional housing units in Nunavut. So it would be an investment from the federal government. We'd also be putting some of our resources in from the Nunavut government. And there's also an element that involves Inuit organizations. So it's quite exciting work that needs to continue. But I think if you look at our mandate, we also want to be looking for ways to strengthen opportunities for careers and employment, because similarly to how housing is linked to so many different things in people's lives, just the lack of employment opportunities or the high unemployment rate here in Nunavut, it is one of the issues we want to tackle as a government. We want to see more Nunavut residents working and building their skills, getting into careers that'll last them a lifetime. So, housing touches on many aspects of people's lives. So does employment and access to careers. So it's exciting work for sure.
So going to the mandate, it has 4 goals, and strengthen and uplift families is the first. So on previous episodes of this podcast, we've spoken with the child and youth representative in Nunavut and the Auditor General's office, who have said that the child welfare system is in crisis. And I'm wondering, how will your priorities work to change that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we recognize that there's still a lot of work to do in terms of child protection and other related social issues in the territory. So it's our Department of Family Services is primarily responsible. There's other departments that are also tied into this in terms of Department of Justice, the Department of Health, our school system. So we're committed to making improvement. The Department of Family Services has a strategic plan around this that's been informed by a lot of consultation, a lot of hard work, and also been informed by the work of the Office of the Auditor General. So recognizing that improvements are needed and following through on the plan that's been outlined, I think is going to be key for us. We're not satisfied with the status quo, and we are recognizing the need for improvement.
And so food security also remains a key issue. And I'm wondering, what does your government want to do to tackle this issue?
Yeah, it's another big one in terms of. I think just first off, I wanted to mention that we are very much feeling the pinch as a territory, as looking at households. People are concerned around just the amount of inflation that's taken place in recent years, with the cost of food continuing to go up and up and up. And so we hear those concerns loud and clear, and we're looking for ways to strengthen food security at the community level, whether it's through increasing employment opportunities, whether it's through increasing our initiatives in schools around school food programs, whether it's around supporting nonprofits and other organizations who work to develop harvesting skills or run harvesting projects, because pulling country food from the land, we know it's some of the most nutritious and the most delicious food you can get, whether it's caribou, seal, fish. We have a lot of amazing food kind of just in and around our communities, and so supporting harvesters and their families, that's got to be a part of what we're doing around food security. But again, it also comes back to the economy and making sure that people have enough income to put food on the table, that they have opportunities for training that can get them into careers. That's also a piece that is needed. So there's a lot. I could go on the food security issue. It's obviously a big one, and one that we're looking to tackle with partners. Looking at the Nutrition North program, we're engaged with federal partners on the reforms that they're looking at. We're also engaged with Inuit organizations around issues like harvesting.
So, on the topic of Nutrition North, APTN asked the minister if the feds were considering moving from Nutrition North to a subsidy that went directly to Nunavummiut. Would this be a more effective way to help with food prices?
In terms of, I don't know. I can't say without actually seeing, what that reformed program would look like. I can't say whether it would be an improvement or not. I think we all recognize that there continues to be deep concern around food insecurity in Nunavut. Whatever approach is taken by our federal partners on Nutrition North, we're not going to remain silent on this. We will make sure that our voices are heard. And ultimately, you look at children who are in school, and just the fact that they need access to those nutritious foods on a daily basis so that they can learn, so that they can have better health outcomes. So it's a issue that's very very real for families in the territory, and it's very real for us as a government. So we're committed to staying engaged on the Nutrition North work, and committed to making sure that federal partners know where we stand on the reforms. So at this point, we're not sure what we'll be seeing out of those talks or the work around reforming the program, but we're going to be engaged. I can say that for sure.
In 2030, the first Inuit-led university is anticipated to welcome its first cohort in your hometown, and I'm wondering, what impacts do you foresee this having for years to come?
It's the Inuit Nunavut University. It's an incredibly exciting project initiative, and I want to recognize the leadership of Inuit Tapere Kanatami, as well as Nunavut Tungavik in terms of our territory and just the vision and all the years of hard work that have gotten this initiative to where it is today. So coming from the Nunavut government's perspective, we're pleased that the decision was made to locate the university's main campus in the territory. We were wanting to see it come to Nunavut, but obviously it wasn't our decision. It was a decision made by ITK and their partners. So we, at this point, in terms of the impacts and down the road, we see a lot of potential benefits, a lot of potential synergies between the university and other existing institutions or existing programs. So, we have Nunavut Arctic College, obviously already operating in the territory, providing a number of different programs for Inuit and Nunavummiut. We have student funding programs through the Department of Education that fund students who are going off to school. There's a number of different ways in which we're hoping to support and interact with the university. And we want to be a partner, I think, is the key message on the university. And we're wanting to work with ITK on the specifics around understanding the university's path towards 2030, I believe is their goal, to have things set up and running in a phased implementation. So we want to be a partner, and I think the very, very first step around that is for us to have a memorandum of understanding between our government and Inuit Tapere Kanatami, which will allow the detailed discussions to take place. So that's what we're working on right now.
And so, when you have these meetings, like the one that we heard earlier with federal officials, what are some of the issues that you discuss the most?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, I try to tailor our messaging depending on who we're meeting with. I mean, if it's with folks in Ottawa and federal ministers, one of the first things we always mention is that we love to host ministers or other officials from our partner organizations. We love to host them here in Nunavut. Like, as much as we like to meet and talk about the issues we're facing, there's just no substitute for actually coming here and putting your, feet on the ground and meeting the people who live up here. And so that's usually a part of almost every meeting that we take with federal leaders and partners. But yeah, just trying to communicate the context that within which we operate. It's incredibly challenging. No matter where you look, if you're looking at our healthcare system, if you're looking at our education system or our power grids, our transportation networks, we are very challenged. We live in a very challenging environment. And so there's a lot of need in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the programming, but there's also a ton of opportunity, and there's also there's so many beautiful landscapes, beautiful communities and families, and so I think we try to deliver a balanced message that's communicating the challenges that Nunavut is facing, but also sharing the opportunities because those are also considerable, right?
Just as the last question, I'm wondering, what do you want our listeners to understand about priorities in Nunavut?
Yeah, I think that maybe the takeaway would be that Nunavut's a territory that we're still very young as a government and as a distinct territory. We were born out of the Nunavut Land Claims Agreement, so our territorial government. I myself am not Inuit, so I'm not Indigenous, but our government is very committed to working with Inuit and working to honor the spirit of the Nunavut Agreement. And as a government in Canada, as a territory, I think that makes us pretty unique. Fully acknowledge that this is the Inuit homeland and that everyone, I think, in our territory has a duty to uphold the spirit of the Nunavut Agreement. And looking at the work ahead, there's a lot of exciting work on the horizon for us, whether it's on Arctic security and sovereignty, whether it's on education and training around university or other initiatives. I think it's a very exciting time right now for our territory in terms of not just the challenges but the opportunities ahead of us, and encourage your listeners, if they're interested in learning more about Nunavut, we're more than willing to engage in conversations or to host visitors. So just really appreciate your time today.
Well, we appreciate yours as well, Premier John Main. Yeah, thanks so much again for making the time.
Thank you. Have a great day.
John Main is the Premier of Nunavut. This episode of InFocus was produced by Mark Blackburn and edited by Jesse Andrushko. Charmaine Straker is the executive producer of APTN News InFocus. We want to know if you're enjoying the show. Please leave a rating and review on your favorite player or email your suggestions to infocus@aptn.ca. I'm Cierra Bettens. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next week.
What is Indian status in Canada, and what can it be used for? We see a lot of comments online about how First Nations people can use their status to get things like tax exemptions, free housing, free education, and more. But what's the truth about status and the reality of these so-called free aspects? I'm Savannah Kelly. Join me and my co-host Jesse Andrushko on APTN News Answers, a new series where we shed light on topics related to current events and issues facing Indigenous people. Watch now on the APTN News YouTube channel.